I picked up a 2-day trip to finish out June, and I overnight in Chicago tonight. I have been to Chicago before, but it was a really random suburb. They weren't keeping me downtown, so I don't even know where it is that I saw, and I don't know, I didn't see any of the typical Chicago things. I didn't get to see Lake Michigan. I didn't get to see the Bean and all the touristy things, so this time I'm being kept downtown. It's not the longest layover, it's 15 hours, but I think it'll be enough for me to see at least a little bit. The weather's supposed to be nice, which is great, and my layover time is in the morning, so I'll definitely be able to find somewhere to get a coffee or a matcha or something. And then I really want to walk along the water, and I think I'll be able to do that. This is officially my last trip out of Denver, being based out of Denver. I've never been based at home since becoming a flight attendant because I haven't been with an airline that has a base in Nashville, and then you don't always get the base you want fresh out of training, which was my experience. So I've been in Denver for the past couple months, and I'm finally going home, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait. The trip is very high credit, which is great, but it's a lot of flying. We have 2 legs today, but they are both quite long. We go all the way to LaGuardia, and then we go to Chicago. And then tomorrow we have 3 legs, and the first one is blocked for 4.5 hours, and that's just one of 3. So it'll be pretty tiring, but then I'll be done for the month. I'll be going home. So I'm just kind of like holding on to that reality to get me through the flying ahead. All right, we made it to Chicago, and our van time for tomorrow is quite a bit earlier than our actual report, just because I think they anticipate traffic, which makes sense, but it takes about an hour out of my layover. So I think I'm gonna sacrifice a good night's sleep, unfortunately, and I'm just gonna wake up early. That way I could actually see some stuff before I have to go. So right now, I think I'm gonna jump in the shower, wash and dry my hair, and then try to get to bed as quickly as possible. And then I think I'm gonna wake up and see what I can get up to in the morning. All right, good morning. It's probably pretty close to 10 a.m. Oh, 9 a.m. Oh my gosh. It's an hour earlier than I thought it was. I am gonna go to a coffee shop, and then I wanna see the water. So I know there's a trail you can walk. I also know there's a pier. I don't really know what I'm gonna do yet. Just kind of walk around, get a feel for Chicago. This is the outfit I'm wearing. Hello. My shoes are American Eagle. These pants are Athleta. And then I got this at a vintage store in Charlotte called Nothing New. I'm pretty sure I got this one at Nothing New. I actually can't remember. Regardless, that's a great store. I began my morning in the direction of Preneurs Row, heading into Cafe Deco for a nice little matcha. St. Myers bookstore was right across the street, so I had to stop in search of postcards. Lucky for me, it was a Saturday and there was a farmer's market, which I always am up for. Part of me wishing I lived in Chicago so that I could take home tons and tons of food from here, but I settled for onigiri. And this reminded me that Divergent is based in Chicago. I loved seeing all the trains everywhere. When I tell you it was a perfect day, I'm not exaggerating. I actually couldn't have imagined it any better, and I was taken aback by the views of Chicago. I know it's notoriously beautiful, especially in the summertime, but I was thoroughly impressed. Everything was so lush and verdant and alive, and there were so many people out and about. The fountains were my favorite part, the small ones to the large in scale. This one actually took my breath away. I stopped and stared for so long before setting up camp and reading more of my book. I don't know how long I spent here, but it was a pretty good amount of time. I could have stayed forever. It was just perfect. Everything about this morning was so serene, which was very necessary after hectic days of flying in summer weather. Being able to sit and pause and just take all this in was exactly what I needed. I'm back at the hotel now. I'm quite windblown. I don't know why I bothered doing my hair. I should have thought that through. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go work out because I haven't in a while. And I mean, I've been exercising in a way because I've been walking a lot on my layovers, but I've been so preoccupied with exploring the cities that I've been going to that I haven't had my routines, which is usually something I really prioritize just because I'm someone who's always in flux, and having patterns that are portable is a super important component of my sanity. Having a morning routine that looks pretty similar, having a nighttime routine that looks pretty similar, working out, all of that kind of stuff. It helps me feel grounded and somewhat consistent, even though my actual location physically changes so much. That being said, this month I picked up all of these trips specifically for the layovers, for either visiting people or exploring cities that I haven't seen before. And because of that, I've spent so much time out of the hotel that I haven't really worked out. And I'm about to go on a road trip, which is 18 hours, which I'm breaking into 2 days. And the moral of that story is that I'm going to be sitting for a really long time. So I think I'll thank myself for moving my body and getting my blood flowing. I can't stop listening to Cigarette Smoke by Olivia Rodrigo. The bridge is so good. And the outro, it's looping right now. I worked out, got changed into my uniform. I finished reading The Night Circus by the Fountain. I loved that book. That was such a fun read. And I love good writing and I love profound thoughts, but there's something about just a really encapsulating story and this sense of unreality and being taken to a different place. I think it's so fun and enjoyable, but it also feels nostalgic in a way because it's like when I was told stories as a kid, or the occasional time when I was younger that I found a book that I did like, it was always for the sake of the story. As I've gotten older, I've definitely grown to appreciate the writing and the sentiment and thoughts that either I've never considered before or thoughts that I really, really relate to and resonate with. However, I love a good story. I love a good plot line, and I really loved this one. It was really fun and enjoyable, and I think it would be, I think it would be a good summer read because of the lightness of it, but I also, they reference Halloween a couple times in the book, so I feel like reading it in the fall would feel like you're in the atmosphere of the story itself. One thing I will say that I really appreciate about Chicago, that I appreciated about a lot of the eastern part of the US, is age and the architecture and how intentional everything was when they built it and how beautiful and ornate. And I've heard the best things about Chicago in the summer. Everybody who I know who lives here and loves it talks about the summertime, and I see why. It was so charming walking around the farmer's market and going into that coffee shop. They had a sign in the shop that said screen free on weekends, so no laptops or tablets. Like, you can't sit and do work, you have to sit and socialize or sit and read a book or something. And I thought that was cool. I like that it's only on weekends, so if you're like a remote work from home kind of person, you could bring a laptop theoretically, but also I like how it cultivates community on the weekends. I think in this day and age that has to be a conscious effort, so I like when places make that effort. June is coming to a close. My flying's about to chill out so much, and I'm really excited. These are the 2 postcards I got. The last time I came home, I dropped off my hairdryer here because I was like, oh, I'll just use my sister's, or I will use a hotel hairdryer. Then my sister goes to training, brings her hairdryer with her, and I realized, oh my gosh, I don't have one. And I have a lot of hair, it takes forever to air dry. So it felt like quite the luxury to give myself like an actual blowout last night. I'm very into the French twist right now. With the length that my layers are at, the messier, the better. But actually I worked so hard to blow dry my hair that I need it to be displayed. I finished that trip and immediately the next morning packed up my car and drove for 2 days from Denver to Nashville, which I just did the opposite 2 months ago. Like, this is way too soon to be doing another 18-hour road trip. I digress. I'm now home, like in my home. Finally, I've moved back in here properly. And from here on out, I'm based out of the Nashville airport, so I don't have to commute. And this is my first time in my whole flying career where I'm not commuting. I am over the moon. I hear it's a different job when you're commuting versus when you're not commuting. That's what everybody tells me. I just don't really know what that's gonna feel like because I've never been able to do it before. So now I will be driving to work instead of flying, and all my days off I actually spend in my home. I won't be spending them in an airport going between home and work. So this is a very exciting development for me. Like, even last night I got the highest sleep score I've had in a while. I just feel so good to be back. I restrung my guitar, and that was wildly overdue. For the most part, I've unpacked. I watered a lot of my plants because I was gone for over a month, and I had a friend stop in and water my plants for me once, but they were hurting. They were pretty ugly. 2 of them needed to be repotted. So many leaves needed to be ripped off. It's fine, they're where they need to be now, and I'll be home to take care of them. And I've also been doing a little bit of purging of stuff, which I think is pretty natural when you're moving in, moving out, and also just the spring cleaning of it all. I know it's summer now, but I wasn't here for spring. So I've been consolidating. I went through my whole desk area. I want to figure out this shelf. I have a shelf that I want to get to replace it, but the shipping is almost as much as the shelf itself, and that feels a little bit frivolous. But I had the most amazing morning. I caught up with one of my friends here. We grabbed matcha at a place I'd never tried before. It was great. I had a lot to say about what had occurred in my life in the past month. There's been a lot of change. So really good conversation. They just opened a Sweet Green in Nashville, so that actually, the grand opening was today, so we went there. I've also been kind of editing videos, which I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I do and the style that I like and what makes sense, because I've been making videos on TikTok for a little bit, but it's so different, and I kind of have my flow on there, but I don't know the way to best document my life and what I get up to in all my travels. So I'm kind of troubleshooting that right now, seeing what feels sincere and authentic. So we'll see. Oh, and I guess I can update that my reading progress is pretty good. I'm like 60% of the way through the book, One of Us is Lying. And I read the first 50% on day 2 of this 2-day trip because we had such a significant amount of flying. There was nothing else for me to do but read. And I literally read half the book. I don't think it's the longest book in the world, but I do think it's a very average sized book. I think it's 300 and something pages. So for me to read half of that in one day is kind of a lot, but I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun, really easy read. So that is my book to round out my June reading, and I'm only 1 book away from being back on track. I'm having trouble catching up with my reading goal because I'm like 1 book behind, and by the time I finish the book I'm working on, I'm 2 books behind. Then I input that book that I just finished, and then I'm back to being 1 behind. So I'm just playing a game of catch up, but I always read more when it's cold outside and there's less for me to do. So I'm not too stressed about being behind because I know November, December, I do a lot of reading. So I'm still keeping myself rolling with that. But anyway, the book that I'm reading right now, I'm enjoying. One of Us is Lying. Okay, I think it's probably time to sign off this video. Thanks for coming to Chicago with me, and I'll see you wherever it is they send me next. Bye.